Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts.
Ever wondered what happens when a Zoomer who grew up on the Clone Wars,
a millennial Anakin defender,
and a grumpy old Gen Xer walk into a cantina to talk Star Wars?
Then we've got the podcast for you.
Star Wars Generations is a place for fans of all backgrounds to come together, talk about why we love the franchise, and what we can learn from each other.
With so much new Star Wars content coming out, we take a deep dive into all of it. We talk stories and characters, what we learn about the Force and the Empire, Republics old and new, and how each story adds to the larger picture.
Besides episode-by-episode coverage of the new shows, we've been going back to watch the movies in release order. We talk about Star Wars novels and video games, along with fan content and cosplay.
And with each episode, we're just starting the conversation, and we hope you jump in. We'll read your feedback, answer your questions. We've even had full episodes dedicated to questions raised by listeners like you.
You can find us under Star Wars Generations on your favorite podcast app, or by going to theethicalpanda.com. May the Force be with you.
Now this is podcasting.
Meet Zinnia.
You are being very polite to someone who is attempting to kill us.
Her wife, Saffron.
You know I'm wildly, madly in love with you.
And their best friend, Goldie.
Glad we didn't miss all the fun.
Swords in hand, they defend their city from the worst of humanity.
I am Lord Buxton Blue.
Equity Electric.
Herr Haig. Virgil Walcott. Vicious Suave.
Follow their adventures on the Swashbuckling Ladies Debate Society audio drama podcast. Available now at truestory.fm/swashbuckling.
Hello, world. Welcome to the Adrian Moment on truestory.fm. I'm Ocean, and I'm joined today, as always, by my partner in sports movies dissection, Jim Pullen.
What's going on, Ocean?
Right now, what is going on is I'm kind of having a lull in the schedule of life, and so I decided to spice things up a little bit by going to a roller derby game.
No way. You know, that's something that I've never seen like in person. So you went in person?
Yes, I went in person and watched it was a ladies roller derby game. I learned while I was there are also men's leagues, but they're not as popular as the women's leagues. And so the local team here is the Rose City Rollers. There's like 4 or 5 different flavors of them, but in Portland, the Portland Rose City Rollers. And so I went to go watch the High Rollers play a game they were playing against a Mexican team, which I did find that interesting. Yeah, they were called the Discordias. At least, I mean, that's what I felt when I read what they're called, yeah, Discordias, which was, it's an odd name, and I don't know if it means something. I really feel now underprepared for this part of the conversation. I should have looked up what Discordias, maybe it means something in Spanish, and I just don't know because I speak zero Spanish. Well, I mean, hola, ¿cómo está? And ¿dónde está la biblioteca? But, those are just the main things. Other than that, that's the sum total of my Spanish. So, yeah, anyway.
Cerveza.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The basic, taco, burrito. You know what? Those are Spanish words, and me actually saying that they are might be a little bit racist. So I apologize for that. Yeah. So then, all right. So anyway, so the Spanish language lesson digression aside, I went to go see a roller derby game. We went and decided to check it out, and it was interesting. It was interesting for a few reasons. One, that they have. Of course, they have the interesting names. The interesting names for the players, where no one goes by their actual name. They had some players like there was one that was, her name was really more straightforward. Like it was like she was just naming herself Harley Quinn after the comic book character. Then there was one like that was like Shamrocket, and then there was one that there was one that was named Witch Slap.
Witch Slap.
Yes, Witch Slap, which I thought was interesting as well. And then there was like then there's the other ones that there's like Big Bang Fury, and then like Kid Vicious, and stuff like that. They have like little just play on names of different things, and that's kind of part of their marketing. The overall experience is interesting. It's very community and communal, and the players they interact with the fans during halftime. It is all, you can tell there are people there that are a lot of regulars, and then there's also a lot of group of people like me that don't have any idea what's going on. And it was interesting. Go ahead.
How many people were there? Like set the scene a little bit.
Oh,
Like how many
okay.
how
So
many
we're in
people?
like a
Like
big
was it like
warehouse.
flat
Yeah.
track, rounded track? I mean,
Yeah. Okay, you got a point there. All right. So we're in a warehouse. The number of people in attendance is, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 500-600.
Really?
Yeah, about 500-600 people. They were on
Wow.
bleachers, like remember the high school flat metal bleachers you would sit on. So you had about they had those went up about 7 or 8 rows, and then went around the one side, went down one side of the warehouse, and then on either end. It's a flat track round. One side has all the players where they all are, and up against the wall. The flat track round, and then you have bleachers on the opposite side, and then on the edges, and on one of the edges is the VIP section where they had couches. Ooh. Yeah, those people, were special. They looked down upon the rest of us.
It was obviously full.
Yes, no, it was full. Yeah, it was. I would estimate around 500 or 600 people. Wow, that were there. Yeah, so yeah, and it was sold out. They, you had to order the tickets ahead of time because you couldn't get anything at the door, and that was fine. But the main thing about the game too, they did it was an okay job as far as explaining what was going on, in terms of the rules and about how the jammers worked and all that. And it was interesting seeing it for the first time because when they block, they can't use their hands. And so it's interesting.
Like they can't physically like grab somebody as they're going by.
Correct.
Right?
So now I'm going to assume. So then, when it comes to the rules of it, you have the basic premise is you have about a group of they're in sets of, I believe, 7, or is it 6 groups of 6, I think. Anyway, you have about five ladies that are all together in a group for both teams, and they're the blockers, and then you have 2 people that are skating, and they're the jammers. And so the blockers have to block. They start off in front of the jammers, and the jammers have to get through the pack. So they have their teammates both blocking for them and trying to stop the other team's jammer from getting through. So they're playing offense and defense at the same time, doing all these different blocking strategies, trying to push the ladies out of bounds or keep them back or just whatever, and let your one go through. And then after that, when your jammer gets around, they go around, and every time they can go through the pack again and again and again, they get more points for up to 2 minutes. And then that's how long it'll go. Or what happens then is whoever gets through first can end the jammer at any point in time by basically just banging against their own hips, and then that ends it. And then have these, and there's these other officials that are around in skates that are also very flamboyantly dressed, and they're, I assume they're calling something. Like, there's a couple times where it seemed like they were calling a foul, but I don't know what it was, because they would have someone would have to go to a penalty box, and they don't announce what's going on, so you don't know why they're going to a penalty box.
Were they given hand signals or anything? Like in hockey, the referees have hand signals, and they announce it, but if you know hockey, you don't have to have it announced because you know what the hand signals mean.
Correct, but this sport is not as popular as hockey.
Okay, right.
So yeah, I didn't. You're right. I mean, hockey I think is more popular, at least especially in Canada. I'm positive that hockey is way more popular than roller derby in hockey in Canada.
I would think so too.
yeah. I think hockey is more popular than any sport in Canada. So
absolutely.
Anyway,
curling. Don't.
I still think I think hockey will edge curling. I mean, don't get me wrong, curling's great, but I think hockey has it. So, but I think the officials were making some signals here and there, but I didn't know what they meant. But all I know is like someone had to go off to the side. And so the entertaining part of that is that in the blocking part too, which is a different thing you'd expect, because they can't use their hands, there is a lot of stuff with the skates where they're doing turning, and a lot of hip checking. And the hip checking is like, you know how like when you were on a dance floor dancing with someone being silly and you're kind of bumping hips? It's a lot of that, because they can't use their hands. And so they're doing that. They are great skaters in that they really can stop on a dime and stop and turn. And then they go up on the stoppers. It's all 4-wheel skates. And so they go up on the stoppers, and they'll actually hop up on the stoppers and then push through and kind of run and push through people that way. And then especially when they're pushing and when they're pushing one-on-one against each other, if like 2 people are like if a blocker is pushing against a jammer, they're like shoulder to shoulder. And it's kind of weird. It's like these it looks like rams, but they're not using their heads, but it's like 2 rams that are both using their stoppers to try to push against each other and then to try to get around. And then you can see the little techniques of, they're trying to dip their shoulders one way or the other to get the person to slide past, so that way that the jammer can get by and all this stuff. And they're trying to yeah, exactly. And then if they knock him out of bounds, and then they have the strategy that I did like, where if a blocker knocks someone out of bounds, the person that gets knocked out of bounds, I finally figured this out, has to go back in bounds behind the person that knocked them out. And so what they'll do is they'll knock them out of bounds, and then they'll skate up the rink to go pretty far to make them have to come back much further back. And that's one of the strategies. And that is about it that I got with strategy. Other than
was there
just the
boards?
basic.
Was there like an out of bound? So
like
it's
lines.
are really setting up
The lines. So think of like the roller rink you went to as a kid, which I don't know. Did you go roller skating as a kid?
Oh yeah, no, all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if you took the basic roller rink you have as a kid and then you put lines around it, there's like an out of bounds section, and so then if they just get knocked out of that line.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, so it's about that. So anyway, so the game itself was entertaining. Rose City won because really two reasons. One, I don't know that they were legitimately better. I mean, they over time were, but they had more players. And so what they would do is you do these groups of like 6, I believe it's 6 at a time that go in, and then that 6 does a 2-minute jam, and then they go out and then another one comes in. And so since Rose City had more players, their players were getting longer breaks between that, where the other team, the Discordias, had fewer players, so their players were playing more and more, and you could tell near the end, especially the second half, that they started getting tired and got worn down.
So you saw the Rose City Rollers play a Mexican team, right?
Correct. Yes.
That's crazy. And so little factoid for you.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I don't know. Before I give you the factoid, I'll ask you a question. Do you see like roller derby as like an extreme sport? You know, it's not your typical sport. Is it an extreme sport?
No, I don't think it's an extreme sport. Extreme sports to me always feel like things in an extreme sport. Whenever you watch it, you always feel that if something goes wrong, they could get seriously injured. You know, if not killed. You know, and there's that. Where with roller derby, it's, you know, I mean, if you fell flat on your face and didn't break your fall, sure, you could, you know, bust up a nose or something like that and everything. And there are ways to get seriously injured and everything, but at no time are you really concerned for their safety as much as it's just like every now and again they take a hit and someone gets knocked down and it's like, ooh, you know,
right.
but that's not. Yeah,
like so the worst, you're getting broken something.
Yes, I would. Right, worst case, like if you fell wrong, you could break an arm,
broken stitches,
stitches. Yeah, you guess. I mean, you're gonna have the ladies are definitely gonna have bruises, you know, from all the contact and everything. But that's it. So no, I don't think of it as an extreme sport.
Well, see, and I was wondering the same thing because I was like, I could see that it could be like borderline extreme because it's different. You know, it's not your normal roller skating. It's not speed skating. It's like speed skating with the possibility of getting hurt. So I was like, all right, well, to me, you know, like what represents extreme sports is everything that you said, but the major sponsors are like Red Bull, right? So I was like, I wonder if Red Bull has like a roller derby team, right? So I was like searching, do they have they don't, but
they don't, no.
But they do sponsor the point scorer, Lauren Much, I think is her last name. That is on Rose City, the Rose City Rollers. And I was like,
they sponsor an individual player.
Yeah, an individual player, and it's one of the only roller derby, and I think it's the only player that Red Bull sponsors in professional roller derby.
Oh.
And it's Lauren Much. And that's why I was like, oh, so you saw the Rose City Rollers, and you're like, yeah. And yeah. So anyways.
I did, but Lauren was not playing in the game that I saw. There are, as I said, there are multiple teams.
Okay.
And so there is the, you know, they have there's the All-Stars. Then they have the one I saw, which was the High Rollers. Then they have the Heartless Heathers. There's the Guns and Rollers, and then there's the Breakneck Betties.
Guns and Rollers.
And then they have I think those are the big ones. And then there's a recreational team that are called the Wreckers. So they have multiple teams. So this the Much she is probably on the All-Stars, I would imagine. You know, but I don't. Yeah, she was not
there.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, she is. I just see her. Yeah, she's on the All-Stars.
There, but
yeah. So she wasn't in the game that I saw.
Okay. I was thinking you saw some greatness. I mean, it was great, not to take away from any of the other athletes that are doing something that, I mean, I would see it as extreme. Just, I mean, I would.
Oh, really? So you see it as extreme just because it's out of the mainstream?
Well, yeah, only from that perspective. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see it by the definition that we were talking about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It's not an extreme sport. It's just extreme because it's not part of the mainstream type of sports, you know?
Got it. Got it. Okay. Well, all of this talk about roller derby is not because we have decided to change the show to roller derby weekly. It is because we've decided that we watched the movie Whip It.
I'm sorry that these pageants don't live up to your high moral standards, but there's a lot you can learn from them no matter what you go on to be in life.
Out of all the places to go to in the world, who would come to Bodine? So, what are you, like, alternative now?
Alternative to what?
What is this? Roller derby? Ooh.
Welcome to skate night at the warehouse. Clean up on aisle 5.
I just want to tell you all that you're my new heroes.
Well, put some skates on. Be your own hero.
The last time I wore skates, they had Barbies on them.
I want to be her.
I guess if you knew.
You could be our mascot.
I'm gonna change my work schedule because I want to take an SAT class on Tuesdays, Thursdays.
I'm impressed.
I like smart girls. That's why I married your mama. Well, that and I knocked her up.
I'ma do the things that I want.
Looking good, Barbie.
You can make out with him, but that is it. Has anyone ever thrown up on the track before?
Yeah.
Get ready to meet your newest Girl Scout, Babe Ruthless!
This is your SAT class?
I am in love with this.
I cannot take losing the chance for our kid to be happy.
We're number 2. We're number 2.
She came in second out of 2 teams. That's right. Celebrate mediocrity. That's fantastic.
Okay, so then in this movie, one of the things I guess I'll start with is that the reason I brought up the not blocking with hands is when you watch this movie, they do a lot of things with hands, and it makes it much more dramatic when they're doing the different roller derby scenes. And so I just thought that was really an interesting thing that I noticed when I was watching the movie. But at that aside, the thing about this movie is that I found this interesting. I want to know what you thought about as well. That effectively, it is a coming of age movie. And that's really what it is about, oh goodness, I want to call her Babe Ruthless because that was her name, but that's not the actual character's name.
Bliss.
So exactly that. So it's about Bliss Cavender in what is this, early 2000s Texas, and she's in a no-name made up town that is just outside of Austin, and she doesn't know yet what she wants to do in life. She's going to be a senior high school. She sees some roller derby girls and then decides she wants to play roller derby and finds out she's really good at it. And this, of course, is to the chagrin of her mother, played by Brooke Cavender, played by Marcia Gay Harden, and who wants her to be more of a, what they were doing wasn't really beauty pageants. It reminded me more of like cotillions, where it was just like where ladies were being proper. Say there was like you asked them a question to being proper. It's not really like a full beauty pageant, but wanted her to be more along the lines of that, which at the end of the rainbow of those, of course, are scholarships, so she could go off to college and then figure out what her life was, and that's really what the movie felt more to me to be about, more so than a real deep dive or any type of discovery into roller derby. Like, so what did you what did you think of the movie?
Definitely no, you're not watching it for the roller derby. You might be baited into thinking like, oh, cool, it's a roller derby movie. But I mean, ultimately what I thought of it, it's a coming of age story. Somebody is trying to, the main character is trying to really find herself. She's been part of, this beauty pageant or cotillion that you're speaking of, she's been doing this with her mom and with her sister for a while, and all these other friends. So you get the idea that she's been doing it for a while. And anyway, so you're seeing her go through just one little snippet, and she's just already showing that she's kind of going against the kind of going against the grain, and it's the coming of age. So you would see her in a purple stripe of hair or something like, purple stripe of hair in a in a Bugent pattern, right?
Yeah, in the first one.
Yeah, in the very first one. So I mean, it's like, you get the idea that she's been around. It's not her first rodeo. There's some other mentions about her past wins. She's in a dressing room with another young lady as they're getting ready, and she doesn't have all the pretty dresses and everybody else has the pretty dresses. They do kind of talk about things that to me at least implies that this has been something that she's done. She's part of the circuit. She's been a champion, if you will. And her mom is like really into it. So, you get the whole coming of age aspect of like, she's growing up and she doesn't want to do these things that her mom is probably have made her for a majority of her life on a regular basis. So she found something that is just completely opposite of what her mom wants her to do. And she finds joy in it, and she like wants to work and grind on it. So, it's a coming of age story for a young lady who's just trying to figure out at that point in time in her late teens as to like, what do I want to be when I grow up, but not necessarily saying like, hey, I want to be a roller derby professional when I grow up. I just think that she sees it as an opportunity this is something that I could do that is completely different. And I want to just jump on into it and look at all these other ladies who are doing it. And you find out all the other ladies like, Kristen Dunst, not Kristen Dunst.
Kristen Dunst? Are you thinking of Kirsten Dunst?
Kirsten Dunst, yeah. Sorry, no.
Who is not in
Kristen? Who's not in the? No, I know my brain. Sorry, Kristen Wiig. No, Kristen. Kristen Wiig later on exposes that hey, I'm a mom. I got this kid in the back, and so it's like for her, she sees her being our main character. It's coming of age, and she can see that this is something that I could continue to do for a long period of time. Not saying that this is something that she wants to do for her life as like a professional career or anything like that, but yeah. So I get the idea. It's a coming of age story that gives her an avenue to break away from the things that she has grown up from.
I guess I can see that. And so the other thing that I think to discuss is the roller derby part of it. I think they do a really good job in this movie as when she first goes to roller derby with her best friend, who Amber was the name of her best friend, I believe. Anyway, her best friend. So it's the main character, Bliss Cavender, is played by, at least at that time, Ellen Page, who is now Elliot Page. But Ellen Page plays Bliss, and that when they first go to the roller derby thing, and this is I guess then I'll kick this back to you with the other question I was curious about your thoughts on it, which is how well when they first go to, it's very bright, it's very exciting, it looks very fun. The crowd there is definitely bigger. That looked more like about a 2,000 person crowd versus than the 600 one that I saw.
What you saw
from what I saw, yeah. And so but and then when they introduce all of the teams, I mean, this one of the things about this movie that it really has going for it is the people in this movie. It's while it is early in their careers, it has Jimmy Fallon, who's a hot tub Johnny Rocket, and then it has, as you mentioned, Kristen Wiig, who her name was really cool too. It was like she wasn't smash. Sorry, it has Kristen Wiig, whose name I'm gonna find here in a quick sec. Oh, Maggie Mayhem. And it had Drew Barrymore in it, who was Sebastian Simpson, and Drew Barrymore, directed it and really made this movie. And I knew about her directing it. I didn't know she was in it. And so like the first few times I saw her, I don't know if you had this, I was looking at her going like, that looks like Drew Barrymore, And so then it took me a bit to figure out it was Drew Barrymore, and so and then Juliette Lewis, who's Iron Maiden. And then they had these in Zoe Bell, who became much more popular later from the Quentin Tarantino movies. And she actually was at first she was a stunt woman. She was Uma Thurman's stunt double for a lot of Uma Thurman's movies. And then she's like Bloody Holly, and then Eve, who was at the time a more famous rapper than she is now, playing Rosa Sparks, which I thought was a very interesting name choice.
Yes.
So then when they introduce all of these characters, the players will skate around in a circle, and they usually do it together, and then the announcer will announce their names, and then they kind of like stand up to like they're all kind of crouched while they're skating, and then the one that's being announced stands more upright, which they do that in this film as well when they're kind of introducing who everybody is. And I was wondering then, like, when that, well, as that happens, which is, it's kind of great at the beginning, and then even as the story goes along, do you think that the movie does a good job of creating an attachment to the characters based on what is happening on the screen and what you're seeing? Or is it taking advantage of really the massive amounts of talent and charisma of these particular actors, portraying these parts? So are you really bonding to anything of what the team is doing, as they start to progress from being horrible, because at the very beginning they're bad and they keep doing that they have that cute chant at the end with them. They keep going like, we're number two, we're number two, right? And then their coach Razor, who was oh goodness, that was Andrew Wilson played Razor, which I'm going to digress here because I did not know that there was a third Wilson brother. Like, did you know that there was another one? Because he's from Luke and Owen. Like, Luke and Owen Wilson are his brother.
Right.
Yeah,
No,
and I was like, I didn't know there was a third one.
I knew there was a third one, but I didn't realize that I had seen him in this when this originally had come out. But I mean, it's like, other than that, I could not place him in anything else. I mean, I'd have to look. I know that he's got stuff in his IMDb, but
yeah, I couldn't place him in this. I thought I was looking at Stifler for the first 20 minutes. So that's why I thought I was playing this. I was like, oh, they got Stifler. And Stifler has a real name, but I don't know what it is. He's just Stifler to me. I don't care what he's in. They have the win number 2 chant, and then they start to come around, and then to try to then improve as a team as it goes on. And then just from the roller derby parts, the sequences of it, the scenes, do you feel attachment to the characters, or is it the actors, or is it the girl bonding? Like, as far as how they portrayed and ran through the roller derby sections of this, like, even though we just talked about the beginning, what was your thoughts of how they portrayed the roller derby?
Well, first off, option B, I think what draws me is the whole charisma of the actors and the actresses that are here in the storyline. It definitely draws you in. Kristen, Drew, Jimmy, those are the parts that I really enjoy. So that's for me. But as far as like how they portray the roller derby, now, growing up, I would watch roller derby on the weekends, like whenever it would be on one of the ESPNs or on some channel, like late at night or something.
I did too, but I always thought that was fake. Like, and I don't mean fake like in.
Like
I guess,
a WWE
I'm using the wrong
type.
part. Yeah, I always thought it was more scripted. I always thought that was like a WWE, like wrestling. Like,
right.
I never felt that they were actually playing the sport. And you know what, they may have been. Like, when you saw that stuff, I know this is a tangent from like other question, but did you feel that they were playing a sport, or did you feel that they were just putting on a show?
I thought it was playing a sport with a show,
Yeah.
To me, it was, was it a legitimate sport in my brain? I don't think so. I was like kid, it was like more of like, okay, well, this is a crazy sport. And then you figure like how they score, and, it was like, all right, no, I kind of dig this. This is kind of fun. And, you'd see as a kid, occasionally you'd get to see somebody get elbowed or something like that in the face or something like that. Some of those that I remember watching, it was pretty violent. It was similar to hockey, like violence, but more flagrant towards the violence, like clotheslines and stuff like that. I mean, it was like, this is kind of cool. So as a kid, to me, it was a legitimate sport that had some kind of storyline or dramatization around it. Cause sometimes somebody would like just be flipping out and just having a monumental, like 3-year-old fit jumping up and down. And it was like, okay, no, that's over the top, right? That's like totally fake. Right. But with that understanding of what I had seen as a child, to me, it was like, okay, yeah, no, this is like right on par with my understanding or what I remember, from roller derby. So I thought on my initial time that I watched this, now I did watch it when it first initially came out. I was like, yeah, no, this is a great portrayal of roller derby. This is great.
Right.
And then rewatching this and then doing a little research, I was like, no, this isn't. And it's probably not even likely like what I remember seeing as a kid. It's like somewhere in between a Hollywood dramatization of to make it a little bit more entertaining of roller derby. But you saw it live. So what do you now that you've seen it live and you've seen the movie, what do you feel your portrayal of this roller derby movie is?
Oh, I think
from the action.
Yeah, from the action standpoint, the biggest difference is the use of hands.
Yeah.
And the use of hands in the blocking, that it makes it where it's much more dramatic when they hit each other. And the types of hitting they do. The other big difference is that they're in a palindrome in the movie and not on a flat rink.
Right.
And that would definitely that changes a lot of the physics of things, the speed at which they would go, and then also sometimes the ramifications of getting hit. Because if you're knocked down on an angle, it is very different than if you're just on a flat surface. And I think that the movie tried to explain what was going on as far as the rules and how it worked. I did not. I found that I understood it better when they explained it in the live event than I did when they explained it in the movie. And so therefore I felt I understood more about what was happening. I think that the biggest hole that I found as far as explaining was how the lead jammer can end a jam. Because they're doing the thing where they're hitting their hips, but it always just seemed like a fun thing to do, not like almost like they were talking. At first I thought they would do it like they were talking trash. I did not realize that was actually a part of the game.
In the movie, right?
In the movie, yes.
Right.
Yeah. You're right. And I didn't realize that was actually a strategic part of the game of ending the jams. And so those are subtle differences here and there from what the movie did to what it is in real life. But by and large, I felt that they did a good job with it. I do feel that my attachment was more to the actors that were portraying the parts than the actual characters themselves.
Right.
But then it's hard to tease that apart. Like if lesser known actors are doing this, do I still feel that way? And then the part of it is I did not see this when it was new. So then a lot of these actors that are in this that I'm talking about, they were lesser known actors at the time.
Yeah, at the time they were up and coming.
Exactly.
Like this is Drew Barrymore's first directorial movie.
Right.
This is her very first, right?
Yes.
And I think it's one of, and I didn't take a look, and I probably could pull it up right now, but I want to say that this was also during a gap period where she wasn't necessarily the primary actress that she was. I think she was coming back into Hollywood again because of her mistrust of some of the.
No, Charlie's Angels was around. This is 2000.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, Charlie's Angels.
Right. This is the movie made in 2001. So, yeah, Charlie's Angels was happening.
Holy crap, that's not a sports movie, but we should talk about that one.
Yeah. Well, come on, they have fighting and car racing in it. So we'll say it counts.
It's a sports movie.
It's a sports movie. It counts. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah. So the fact that they had less known actors at the time, and then they are now, whereas like when this movie came out, Drew Barrymore was unquestionably the biggest star in it. But now, I don't know, is Jimmy Fallon bigger than everybody? I mean, with the whole Tonight Show thing, and it's live with the Tonight Show.
I know he went through both of them.
So he took the Tonight Show. Yeah. So you took the Tonight Show. I didn't remember which Jimmy had which show. So so he took the Tonight Show, and so but being that that how huge he is now in comparison to what was there, so it's then a thing of where it's like, okay, well, all these actors are much bigger now, and so then I think that the attachment you have to them is because of things that they've done subsequent to this, not for this movie in the specific, and so therefore, I try to I'm basically doing my half-hearted. Well, I think I'm more attached to the actors, but then it's like, well, that's because I saw it for the first time now. Sticking with the roller derby part of the action, so we'll just stick with that. Part of this, while it is a coming of age story, it is also, from a sports movie's perspective, a team is no good. Team gets scrappy new kid that doesn't really know anything, but is just an idiot savant, I guess, for lack of a better term, at this sport. And then team decides to use this to rally and become their best selves, and so that is what clearly happens in this,
right.
when Bliss comes on and then she becomes Babe Ruthless, which, as an aside, I felt like an idiot for the first half of this movie. I did not put together what Babe Ruthless was. Like I just thought they were just calling her that. And then it wasn't until like halfway through the movie, I was like, Babe Ruth. So it's like
Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
She's ruthless.
Yeah, he's ruthless. Yeah.
Babe Ruth.
Yeah. The whole Babe Ruth thing went right over my head. Yeah, exactly. And then when I finally got it, I was like, oh, you idiot. It's Babe Ruth. Like, how do you not know that? And I was like, no, I do know that. I'm smart. Okay. So then, Anyway, when she becomes very ruthless, and they discover that she's really fast at skating, and then they start becoming a better and better team, and they start to demonstrate it as they start, progressing and winning, and then they're going to take on eventually the Holy Rollers in the championship game at the end. So then through that bonding and teamwork, they grow as a team, become more of a unit, and then go on to the big game. And I feel that slice of the movie is really a standard sports movie story, and part of why I really did consider this a sports movie, even though what I just described for you was, while a through line of the movie, definitely not the most important part of it.
No, everything that you mentioned, that is the atypical recipe for your sports movie. And yeah, so what's the side story that you're talking about? The whole
the team. So the team is the side story. They are the side story, and because the real thing about this is, there's a lot of this movie which I give Drew Barrymore a lot of credit for. She's really good at making these type of girl bonding movies. I mean, honestly, look, the Charlie's Angels ones, which were, while she didn't make them, and she's definitely the one that made them happen. And so that she's really good at these girl bonding movies, and the real relationship through it is very much from Bliss and her mother. So there's a mother-daughter story going on there that has a lot of different layers as far as what your mother wants you to do, how the mother is not all wrong, and not like some horrible person trying to really run her life, as much as trying to help her in a way to then give her a platform where she can move on from somewhere, because they don't seem rich. So it doesn't seem like they could afford anything that they want to do. And the scholarships and opportunities you get from pageantry, or this cotillion, I think they were calling it pageantry, but the scholarships and opportunities you would get from pageantry would allow her to have a springboard to go on to whatever life she wanted to do. And even though it's not what she wanted, it isn't a scenario where I felt that the mother was some overbearing character that was trying to ruin her life. Because, I look at it now going like, I think your mother had, that's, given their resources, wasn't a bad idea.
Yeah, I think there was also a hint of, you gotta be the prim and proper so that a proper man can come and swoop you along, kind of like 1950s vibe,
Really?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was slightly implied. Just the vibe and the way that her mom is like, you got to go and do this, or you got to do this, and you're going to win this. And, how dare you do that to your hair? Better. And, and just like, I don't know, her mom just gave me that vibe, that infliction of, you need this because you have nothing else other than school, or you're going to get married, and that's it.
Okay. I guess
prim and proper.
Well, I could see how you got there. I did, and it could be that I just gave the mom more benefit of the doubt, given especially like, she had the kid because she wasn't, she and her husband, while they still clearly, they clearly loved each other, and it was, they had that, but there was very much, they got together and became a couple, because, she got knocked up and they had bliss. And so then they got, and that's how they got married. And so that she was just trying to help her have a springboard to something else in life. And that was the avenue that the mother knew how to provide, just to say, to get there, right? The mother wasn't, so I gave her more benefit of the doubt there with that. And so the rebellion phase for Bliss is, of course, it starts with the roller derby, and then it continues on with the love story, which the love story with what is Oliver, his band, who which I always thought was weird, because with part of the movie, it is known early on, okay, she's only 17. Bliss is only 17. Bliss is supposed to be 21 to do roller derby. There's a lot of drinking in the movie where you just kind of assume, okay, well, most of these people seem to be adults because they're just buying the beer, buying it, and that, so he's over 21 and she's 17, and so that was a little bit weird for me for a bit, and that, but there's the aspect of the rebellion of that, and kind of having that, in a sense, secret relationship, and it felt more like a rebellion in a way, because she was just hiding all of this from her parents.
Right. It was her second life. Nearly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
It wasn't even you don't necessarily know that the parents would have had a problem with all of this. They were never really given the opportunity to say whether they did or not. But it was being hidden, and then it was her little, her rebellion. So she had a romance, and then that crashed and burned. And then and then that's when they find out, and they kind of start to try to reconcile. And so I think that the important parts of the movie, or the crux of the movie, is about, in a sense, making mistakes and learning from them. Whereas when she goes and hiding all these things from her family, it wasn't as necessary as she thought it was. Also, I don't okay.
know.
What do you
I don't
think?
know.
Do you think she had to hide it from them?
Definitely her mom wasn't going to go and be like, oh yeah, sure. You want to go do roller derby? Yeah. Let me go ahead and sign that waiver for you. Right. I mean,
I agree.
Dad,
No, her mom
Dad,
wasn't.
I think.
Exactly.
Dad, I think would have, and then Dad maybe would have gotten, ultimately Dad got his way anyways to get the support that he needed with his wife to be able to go and show the support.
Well, for the last game, I mean, because
for the last,
with the sports parallels of the teams getting better, they get to the championship game. The championship game is also the same day as some pageant that she is supposed to do. That is a big deal. At least I think it was a big deal. That was a thing that was never really was that. Do you think that pageant was supposed to be a big deal pageant, or just the next pageant?
I mean, they implied it was a big deal only because of the special dress that they got, right? I mean, it was like a custom-made dress. The other ones didn't have a custom-made dress. So to me, it was like, okay, if you're going to spend the money for a custom-made dress, then this is the World Series of pageants, something,
Yeah.
But so, I mean, there was that, but can I go back real quick on the whole relationship thing?
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, she's 17. We know that she's portraying to be 21, but we never really know how old Oliver is. Or do we have to agree that he's like 22? Because she's like, oh, I'm 22. And so is he 22? Is he older? Like, I don't want to make it creepier than it already kind of is.
Yeah, it was, it was creepy. And so, yes, I think so, because they do briefly touch on, or at least show scenes of where they are acquiring liquor. And usually when they're acquiring it, they're being, they're getting IDs or going into bars or various places where when they acquire it, he's able to get it. And that implies that he is over 21. Now, he is probably just like 21, 22, something like that. Like, he's not like, he's not 30. But but at the same time, he's definitely over. And so, yeah, and it did cause me to look up, well, what is the age of consent in Texas? To be like, well, is that okay? Because like, what is it I'm watching? Because it was the one part of the movie that kind of took me out of things, of when I'm watching this, and I recognize that. Look, I'm kind of old now that I was thinking about that, because I was like, if I saw this when I was 17, I wouldn't. This never would have crossed my mind. But now that I'm old, I'm old enough to where Bliss could be my daughter. Like I, you know what I'm saying? Like I could have a 17-year-old daughter, and I was like, oh well, that just seemed, it just felt, it created for me a different feeling of how I view the relationship. When it was first in cutesy and they were just kind of dating and stuff like that, it didn't pay any mind. But then they actually go into a little bit. There's a scene in the pool when there's that's obviously when they ultimately have sex, and they don't show this. They don't show the sex or anything like that, but they show enough where it's like, hey, this is where it's going, and then at the same time it's like, how old is he exactly? So
and it's funny. I at first, when we were going over some of our notes and stuff, and I was thinking about the whole conversation that we were having here about like, oh, I'm old, I got to tell you, this movie came out 15 years ago ish. And I saw it when it came out 15 years ago. I didn't have that thought 15 years ago. Like, oh, there's two people that are making out in a pool. I was just like, wow, this is an interesting scene. Like, I kind of remember thinking like, this is just a weird scene, and it's shot underwater. It's kind of cool, but it's also kind of like, wow, that's a lot of underwater kissing and stuff. Like,
I was thinking, how do you hold your breath that long?
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of it's just, I don't know. It's fairy tale-ish, I guess. I don't know. It's just kind of weird, but I didn't have that thought until I was watching it for our show, because I was like, this is weird. Like, if you're a 22-year-old dude and you're doing this in the pool, like, I don't I don't see this as an activity when I was hooking up with girls when I was 20. Like, hey, let's go to this pool and go hook up like this, right? Like that seems more like a high school thing. You know what I mean? So like, where's the flag for the dude? Like, what's going on with this girl? Like, you know.
Well, no, didn't. I thought he got them into the pool.
He did. Oh, that's right. No, he did.
It was him.
Through the vent thing.
He did. Yeah, and while I definitely agree that it feels more high school, I mean, even at 20, 21, 22, and this is given that Oliver's a musician, I think it's fair to say he didn't go to college. He would still think like a high school kid. For him, high school was only a couple years ago.
Just
and he doesn't have anything else replacing that. So that I could totally.
But he's down the road. No, I mean.
Well, he goes on the road. We have no evidence that band ever toured before the first tour we saw in the movie. So he goes on the road, but he's in a band. He's in a band. He's not in college. High school for him, even if he's 21. Let's say he graduated at 18. High school was only a few years ago. So it would be a total. Yeah. He would still think that way. It was just that's why I say. It's because I'm old, because I agree. I think if I'd seen this because it came out, it came out about 15 years ago. And
15
if I'd seen it
15,
then,
I
don't know that this would have occurred to me at all. But then
I just thought it was a weird looking scene.
15 years ago, Bliss couldn't have been my daughter, right? And so now,
right,
but now she can, and so now I'm like, that just looks a little weird to me now. So and
it's got different visuals now. No,
it really does. And that was the thing that it's one of those things of where I thought of as an interesting choice an interesting choice of the movie, but then also how much of it is a choice of the movie makers versus I'm just old. Right. So I added something that maybe shouldn't have been there. Yeah.
No, I don't think you added anything. It's the parental guidance that is in our heads now as fathers, as to like, oh, wait a minute.
Yeah. Well, it is. And now, and also to put a pin in what I said earlier, I did look up that in Texas the age of consent is 17.
So I mean, it's totally fine.
So
the movie portrays everything.
Yeah, right. So legally we're good. So like that's I can say
even
that
in 2009, right?
Yeah. I didn't look up the best. Well, it's Texas, so 2009 it could have been younger. I don't know how. Who knows? So I mean, 100 years ago they all got married. Everybody got married at 14. So.
Right.
17, if you were unmarried at 17, they'd be like, what's wrong with you? So, so anyway, going into, the rest of it with the conceit of the story that I guess she, I don't know, forged her way into the team since she was supposed to be 21. And then she was said, I think she just lied. And then for whatever reason,
believe it.
And for whatever reason, they didn't check ID, because she, who knows? That's one of those things where it's like kind of a little mini plot hole that who cares? But then given that, so
I mean, it's I don't that whole thing. It to me it can be a little bit believable. My first professional career job, I was 19 years old, and it was a desk job. And at the end of the week, everybody would go together and go and get drinks at some Mexican restaurant, and I'd go and I'm buying drinks for everybody and they're buying drinks for me. And it wasn't until like almost my full year tenorship, right around the time I got laid off, that they discovered I wasn't 21. And so, I mean, but for a dude, I had facial hair, so I could pull off that I was 21. I don't know if I can necessarily speak to Bliss and be like, oh yeah, you totally look like you were pulling off 21, 22 easy.
Well, she didn't look like it, but then there is a thing with especially with girls where by 15, 16, 17 years old they look fully grown. They typically, when women are 16 or so, they can look about like that until they're in their mid to late 20s. They'll start to change some here and there, but like it is so while she is portraying a 17-year-old, Ellen Page wasn't 17 when this movie was made.
Oh, good point. Yeah.
So then it's not like, so therefore it is a thing of where you can be over 21 at that time, over 21 and be her size, so because she would have been, because in looking at this, and now that I just looked it up, when the movie came out in 2009, she was 22.
There we go.
Yeah. There we go. So even though she was portraying a 17-year-old, she was 22. So, So I think that she could definitely pull off saying it.
Yeah.
The fact they didn't check any ID was the part that I thought was interesting. But hey.
Yeah. I don't. I've played in a lot of different like lacrosse leagues, baseball. Everything always requires an ID of some sort. Like,
yes, it does.
Need to show that you are 18 or older, depending on whatever the league structure is,
or just that you are legally who you say you are.
Well, there's that too. There is some of that in some leagues, not all leagues.
But, but either way, that part was.
You got cash, you can play. Let's go.
Right. And so there is, I guess, the other thing then about keeping with the sports angles of all this and getting away from the romance part of the whole thing, which is, you know what? I'm lied. Let me go back. The one thing though I did find great about the character was when Oliver goes on tour. And then he cheats on her, and she's all upset because she lost her virginity to him, and she's upset. And then he cheated on her, and then she comes back, and I did find it amazing, and I don't know if amazing is the right word. I just found it very different in movies, and I thought it was very good in that she still broke up with him. Right, he comes back and denies the whole thing, and she is still like, you know what, and when he denies it. There's part of me that thinks she started to believe him. She started to believe him that nothing actually happened. And she still just broke up with him really on the sole principle of, I'm just not going to be the girl that always hears about the stories that don't happen on a tour.
Yep.
And I was like, at 17, that is a very mature perspective to have.
Yep.
Yeah. I thought that was great.
That's the bow on top of the coming of age story for her growth, for her story arch, her growth in that little period of time, 2-hour movie or so. That is her full growth. That, she got away from her mom. She got what she needed out of roller derby. She got a relationship. And within that relationship, she was able to, grow, feel potential love, and break, potential heartbreak, and then growth from that, all in a quick little whoop, just a little arch, just that little whoop, and it's great because I like it because it breaks away from the stereotypical structure of other movies where, you would have been like, oh, okay, yeah, I do trust you. And, thanks for coming back and supporting me. And, I love you. Let's get married.
Exactly. I love you. This is her first love. Which is, when you have that first love, that is the first love is indelible in your life, and you don't typically break up with that one easily. But no, that she had a very mature reaction to it. And yeah, I do agree that was part of her growth, and I think that led to, in my view, there is only one part of the movie that is like an Adrian moment, and it's that, and it sprouts from that heartbreak from Oliver, where when she kind of reconciles back with her mom and goes back home because she was living with Kristen Wiig, who's Maggie Mayhem. So living with Maggie Mayhem for a bit, and then but she comes back and then reconciles with her mom, and then starts to, that's when she agrees that she's going to do the pageant, and they kind of have that that moment of where they're going to kind of have it go back together. But then the Adrian moment to me is a little bit later, when the mother tepidly agrees to let her play, and I think it is a different Adrian moment than most films, because in most films, I view the Adrian moment as where the person that you really need the support from or the belief in to do the thing is the person where you needed it, but you were going to do the thing anyway. And in this movie, Bliss wasn't going to play in the big game, so that she needed that moment, literally and figuratively, to do the thing that she really wanted to do, because otherwise she was going to suppress her own desires and do the pageant to make her mom happy.
Yeah, she was conceding. She was all ready to go. Like, all right, well, I'll go and do this pageant for you, Mom.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, it's not the pure definition of what we're looking for an Adrian moment, but it's very much akin to what we would look for. But it's almost like it's like a blessing of sort of an Adrian moment. Like, all right, yeah. broke me down. I'm in it.
Yeah,
let's do it.
It's absolutely a blessing. And without it, this movie ends up with a beauty pageant. We don't end with that big game, right?
right. No,
you know, so, which then makes it where it's like, well, is this a sports movie? Because we were talking about roller derby, and we ended up in beauty pageants.
Right. No, I get that from the whole story of the movie, yeah. But like from a character perspective, yeah, it's the blessing of, all right, let's go ahead and do this. Let's see what you got, and it's But yeah, it's not your classic Adrian moment that we're looking for, but it is. It's the cousin.
Yeah, it is. And so, getting from that to going from that to the end, the big game at the end. Did you feel that it mattered?
Did the big game matter? Yeah, it mattered. I mean, it's one of those classic moments in a movie where even though we're saying like we're not completely wrapped up, now everything that is leading into that, we've got a team that has never won anything, and you got a team that has been the champion 2 years in a row or 3 years in a row. That is now the big game, and it is the biggest climactic moment for the sport aspect, but also for how all the storylines are coming together at the end. She's getting the blessing that we just said to be able to go and do this, and the team is dependent upon her for being able to get the points that are needed in crucial moment in the big game. So it's that big game sports moment.
Okay. So,
and it matters.
Okay. I guess then I found myself on the other end of that. I
really?
I think that the game only mattered insofar as it occurred. Because it was an aspect of where it allowed the mom to see, the Babe Ruth listening. I think that honestly, the big game mattered more for the dad than the mom in a lot of ways, right? So
you get to pound that sign in the grass so happily.
Yeah,
I got
absolutely.
something in the sign.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it mattered more for the dad, and that it was, there's an aspect of it where again with the. And I keep, I guess, I guess now that I'm thinking this through more out loud right now, it's like, well, I keep calling it girl bonding, but in a sense, it was the team coming together, which if it was a group of guys doing it, I wouldn't be like, well, this is guy bonding. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just bonding.
Good point.
Right?
Yeah.
It's just bonding.
Team bonding.
It's just team bonding. And the team coming together and believing that they needed their star player, which that would happen in any sports movie. You need the star player. They're sneaking around to do the thing, and then they're trying to do whatever they can to make sure she doesn't get in trouble, but then at the same time get her to come and play the game because it's the big game. And that culmination of everything where the game mattered insofar as it allowed them to solidify their bond as a team, come together and do the thing. It allowed the mom to see the life. It allowed the dad to be very proud of her daughter, very proud of his daughter because she was really good at this thing. But the Holy Rollers were the 3-time champs, and then as the game goes on, they win the game. But it was like, well, and when I say did it matter, like, and the fact that the fact that they lost, well, the Hurl Scouts, yes. So the fact that the Hurl Scouts lost was like totally fine.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't even a thing of where you were bothered by the fact that they lost. Like it wasn't even like, oh, I need to accept that they lost. Oh, I thought they were going to win, but they did. It's like, and that is kind of where I was like, well, did it matter? Like, was it ever, even when you were watching this, was there ever a point of where you felt like invested in their victory, or was it just the only thing that mattered was that the game happened?
I was interested in the game happening. Yeah, I mean, to me, the other events that were occurring, I wasn't as vested as that last one, just because of all the character build up to that point. You're there with the team, and so even from a team perspective, you're there throughout the movie, seeing the team grow. Like you were saying earlier, they had a cheer for like, we're number two. They wouldn't run plays when they were asked to run plays, and then eventually they were able to run plays that coach wanted them to run. And, once they started gelling truly as a team, each understanding their role as individuals on the team, as they're skating around together, they had to understand what their roles were to some degree. It's not like they were explaining it, but visually you're seeing everything gel together. And it's because the team unity eventually becomes a major central part. And yeah, and to me, you know, at the end of the game, at the end of the movie, you see the championship, and yeah, even though I was ready for the game and I wanted to watch it and see what was going to happen, yeah, your heroes don't win, and it's okay. And it just, I don't know, it's like one of those feel good moments. Like, yeah. So the way that you said it, you know, it's just the is it the game that's occurring? Like, you know, it's just occurring. Now that you've said it like that, yeah, I could, yeah, you know, it's just like, okay, cool. Yeah, it's occurring, and it happened, and it ended. I might have even said earlier it was a climax of the movie, or for the team, it was the climax for the team, but for the movie, not a climax, definitely. But
right for that thread, it definitely was a climax. When they chant "we're number 2" at the end, it's kind of is a very sweet moment, you know, that they're kind of accepting it, and that the coach was, you know, still proud of them and all that. There is a lot of that for the team as far as the climax. But I felt that the interesting thing to me about it was that and part of why I felt that the team wasn't the crux of the movie is that the fact that they lost doesn't bother you.
Yeah,
you're not invested in it the same way you would have been as if, you know, there are several other sports movies where if at the end they lose the game, you'd be like, I can't believe the movie would be more shocking or odd in a sense of where you're like, I can't believe they made it where they lost.
Right. No, that's a very good point.
You know,
very good point.
Whereas in this, you know, so anyway, so that was what I thought about that. And then I guess getting back to the team too, then of their names, or of all of the names. So let's talk about the names.
Right.
Did you have a favorite name of the group, or, you know, I can run down your various options.
I mean,
like,
no, I mean, for me, it's probably just because of growing up with a crush on Drew Barrymore, like Smashley Simpson and her character,
right,
as goofy as it is and as rough as she is, it's not your typical Drew Barrymore type character.
Wait, hang on. You felt that Smashley Simpson was not your typical Drew Barrymore type character?
I mean, it's a different type of goofy. It's not like
that's who she was in Charlie's Angels. It was literally the same character.
No, it was not.
It was. It was the same character. It's the same character as Charlie's Angels.
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Drew Barrymore was the same in Charlie's Angels. She was all rough and tumble, and she was being down things, and she'd be laughing at whatever's funny. She was, you know, awkward and goofy. It was Charlie's Angels. It was I don't remember her. I don't even remember her name in Charlie's Angels. But now I'm gonna preamble for a bit until I can find out what her name was. Hang on. Oh, it just says Dylan. So yeah, so it's Dylan. So it's Dylan from Charlie's Angels. It's same.
I don't think it's the same.
Yeah, I do. It's the same as that. It's same in. There's a couple of bad movies she's in where it's similar,
whatever.
You know. So yeah, so I didn't feel that she was I didn't feel it was an atypical Drew Barrymore character.
Whatever, man. You know. I mean,
okay, so you like go ahead.
I like Smashley Simpson. I like the name. I like her character. And then like my second choice would probably be a name that wasn't on here, but I can't remember it off the top of my head because I didn't write it down. But yeah. What about you?
Okay. So you're saying that you like Smashley Simpson better than the name Babe Ruthless, which honestly, as I admitted to earlier, once I finally got it, I was like, oh, that's great.
That one hit you.
Yeah, because I honestly thought that they were just calling her Ruthless, and the Babe part was because she was young, like young looking girl, right? Like it was just a babe, but she's ruthless, and that's what it is, you know. And I did not put, and I just on it. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so then the other ones, you know, you have Maggie Mayhem. And you know, and Bloody Holly was fine. Rosa Sparks, I thought was an interesting choice. And then of the popular character names, it was definitely Iron Maiden. That was my favorite of the different names of the names of the main character. Now, I will admit the one name that I just laughed out loud when I heard, partly because it caught me off guard and everything. But when they were when she was first going to try out, there was a random conversation between these two girls, and she's like, if I get on the team, I'm gonna be named Jabba the Slut.
Yeah.
And I was like, you just threw in a Star Wars reference in there along with that for me was my favorite name, but that name did not make it onto a team, so they don't count. The other one was going to be Pocket Rocket, which was cute, but I mean, once you start bringing in some Star Wars references on top, I mean, that's chef's kiss right there.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah.
What about you? So let's throw this out there. I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
If you and I were in a roller derby team, what would be your name?
Man, I wanted to we talked anyway.
I'm putting you on the spot.
You are putting me on the spot. I wish I had a good one because my things are much more of a natural disaster type names is what I think of off the top of my head, but that doesn't go in line with what this is. And so I am not 100% sure. I think it would be I do like the Star Wars references. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. All right.
But I can't think of something that is really that good. Like, have you given that any thought? Like, do you have a name? Because I'm gonna stall for time. Do you have a name that you thought of that I can maybe steal from? So
only, I mean, for me, I'm taking it because a guy I used to work with, he would call me Jim Jammer, and so to me, being a jammer in the position, if I was to be on a roller derby team,
got it.
I would be Jim Jammer.
Okay,
I would be Jim Jammer.
All right. I now just thought of my name, and I realized that I was inspired by Jabba the Slut, and I would be Darth Hater.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, that would be my name. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So
I was thinking like Darth Mauler or something like that.
That'd be Darth Mauler would be good too, but that's the whole name. But but I go Darth Hater because
Darth Hater.
Yeah, Darth Hater. Yeah, because that is in reference to my favorite Darth, and that would keep that way. Darth Hater, Jim Jammer, and Jabba the Slut could all be on a team together.
Absolutely. Yeah. We need some like Jar Jar Stinks and
absolutely.
Obi-Wan and Bolmy.
Exactly. Yeah. That's something like that. Yeah. You know what? If given enough time, I'm sure I could think up of enough silly names with Star Wars to make this work. But yeah. So anyway, that would be. I think we have now solved the question that everyone was wondering about what our derby names would be.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
We start our team. So if you hear about a team starring Jim Jammer and Darth Hater, you know that we are coming to a town near you. All right. So how would you recommend this movie?
I know I've seen it twice. After seeing it the second time, I hate to say this. Like I remember feeling like I enjoyed the movie the first time I watched it, and I was genuinely excited to watch it again.
Okay.
And then I found myself sitting there going, why was I excited to watch this movie again? I don't know. This movie wouldn't come off the top of my head as a recommendation for anybody. Just, it's not, it has its funny moments. It's not funny enough for me to be like, oh, you want a funny movie? Oh, I got a funny movie for you. So it doesn't fall in that category for me. It's, it's a coming of age story. I don't know if there's any inspirational things that I could like jump onto and be instrumental in saying, hey, this movie is a coming of age. So here you go, person. This might help you in something that you're looking for. Like if it was a younger person I was talking to, I don't know. I don't know if I could use this as a recommended movie other than, it definitely, I do. And I've mentioned it before. I do enjoy a good, girl power type movie. I don't necessarily, this does have some really good girl power moments in it. So, I could recommend it from that perspective, but I don't think it would be a movie that would just all of a sudden like pop into my head as like, oh, hey, I got a recommendation for you. I don't know. What about you?
I guess I'd say it this way. Hey, would you like to see a feel-good movie focused around a sport you don't spend any time thinking about?
Yeah, please. What is that?
Then you should check out Whip It. Whip It good. Crack that whip. Yeah, okay. Anyway.
Turn yourself around. Crack that whip.
You can whip it. So then, yeah. So I think it's that. It is a very good movie. I actually think it's a very good movie. I don't know that I'm going to watch it again, or I'm going to watch it a bunch of times, but I think it was a really good movie and it was really well done. And I would recommend it to anyone to see a movie that is, hey, this is a good movie. It is a pseudo family movie. It's like your kids need to be older, to really appreciate all this. But it is a good movie that has a good central story. It's well written. I think it's well acted. I like the way the sport is portrayed in the movie. I actually even enjoy. I think that there are areas that it takes liberties when it comes to the sport. I think that it does it in small chunks, and it does it in ways that I do think improves the overall aesthetic of how the sport is being portrayed. And I think that the relationships are well done in this movie. And so I think that it is something that I would recommend to someone to check out. But I do understand that I don't think it's something that I would want to watch like multiple, like 5, 6, 7 times, something like that.
Yeah, no, I understand that, especially coming from me. It's like the second time I was sitting there. I'm like, wow, I would take away what you got from the first time that you watched it and enjoy that.
Man, Jim, it is always great to talk about movies with you. If you really enjoy the show, please become a supporting member at thenextreel.com/join. For $5 a month, you will gain members-only access to bonus show content for this and many other shows in the Next Reel family of film podcasts. Like, rate, listen, and most importantly, share this podcast with anyone you know that loves sports